My name is Rosalinda, and I used to think I understood life, how hard work, honesty, and kindness always lead you somewhere good, but I was wrong. Sometimes life tests your morals in ways you never expect. Sometimes one choice, one secret, can change everything you are. When I started working for the Coltons, I was just a young woman trying to help my parents pay their mortgage. I didn't plan to get involved in anyone's problems, especially not in the kind of world where money hides pain and silence buys safety. But what began as a job turned into something much darker and much more human. If someone told me back then that I would end up holding a child that wasn't mine, keeping a secret that could destroy lives, I would have never believed them. Yet here I am, telling you my story. Because some lies don't fade with time. They stay, and they change you forever. My parents came to the US from Mexico before I was born. They didn't speak English, didn't know anyone, only how to work. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned schools at night. We never had much, but I learned early that work wasn't just survival. It was dignity. At 13, I started babysitting for neighbors. By 16, I was already known as the girl who can calm any baby. Families trusted me. By 23, I had a folder of recommendation letters, small pieces of paper that meant everything to me and my parents. One day, a placement agency called about a position. "Full-time nanny," the woman said. "Private family in Houston. Their little boy is 2 years old, excellent pay." I almost said no. I'd worked for nice families before, but private usually meant complicated. Still, something in her voice made me curious. When I looked up the family name, my jaw dropped. Brandon Colton, the man behind Colton Energy, oil and gas contracts across the world. His face was everywhere, business magazines, award galas, charity dinners. Always serious, never smiling. Next to him stood his wife, Ashley, 25, a former model who looked like she stepped out of a magazine, blonde with blue eyes. Their photos were beautiful, but I couldn't explain why. Something about them felt cold. The first day I drove to their house, I realized mansion was an understatement. The driveway stretched longer than my entire street. Marble statues, white roses, and a front door taller than I'd ever seen. Ashley opened it herself. She was breathtaking. Golden hair, soft pink dress, the kind of woman who looked like she belonged in a painting. "You must be Rosalinda," she said, her voice calm but careful. "Come in." Inside, everything was spotless, the kind of clean that made you afraid to touch anything. Then a tiny voice called from upstairs. "Mommy?" Ashley smiled. "That's Brandon Jr. We call him Little B." He was a sweet boy, 2 years old, with messy brown hair and big blue eyes. When I waved, he clutched his toy bear tighter, then offered it to me like a peace gift. That was the moment I knew I wanted this job. Ashley led me through their schedule, explained his meals, nap times, favorite books. She seemed kind, though distracted, like someone living on 2 different planets at once. "My husband is often away for business," she said quietly. "He works a lot." I met him that evening. Mr. Colton arrived just as I was packing up for the day. The sound of his car made everyone in the house move faster. He stepped inside, tall, confident, in a dark suit that probably cost more than my car. His presence filled the room. "This is Rosalinda," Ashley said quickly. "She's helping with Little B." He looked at me briefly, his eyes unreadable. "You've worked with children before?" "Yes, sir," I said. He nodded once. "Good. I expect discipline. My son's routine is important." "Yes, sir." And that was it. No smile, no warmth, just orders. When he left the room, even Ashley seemed to exhale. From that day, I came every morning at 8 and left around 6. Ashley rarely went out. Sometimes she painted quietly in the sunroom while I played with Little B in the garden. Her paintings were soft, sad things. Blue skies, cages, birds trying to fly away. Once I told her they were beautiful. She smiled faintly. "Brandon doesn't think painting is work," she said. "But sometimes it's the only thing that feels real." I didn't know what to answer. Still, I loved the job. Little B became my sunshine, sweet, affectionate, and trusting. I thought I'd found stability. But sometimes, when I walked through that perfect house, I felt something heavy in the air, like everyone was pretending. I didn't know it then, but that mansion wasn't just a workplace. It was a secret waiting to explode. And soon, I'd be right in the middle of it. If there was one thing everyone at the Colton's house knew, it was this. When Mr. Colton was home, you kept quiet. And when he wasn't, you breathed. He almost never spoke to me. I was just the nanny, invisible, like the flowers changed every Monday or the lights that turned on by themselves. Still, something about him made me nervous. The silence, the power, the way everyone in the house moved a little faster when his name was mentioned. That's why the day his partners came to visit, everyone was on edge. He was running late from the airport, so his 2 business partners waited in his home office, a large, dark room at the end of the hallway with glass doors and the smell of expensive cigars. Ashley asked me to keep little B occupied, so we played near the staircase with his ball. It rolled too far, right toward the closed office door. "Stay here, sweetheart," I told him and went to get it. When I bent down to pick up the ball, I heard voices through the door. Low, laughing, confident. I didn't mean to listen. I swear I didn't. But the words made me freeze. "He'll sign it without checking," one man said. "Same old trick. Disappearing ink. Contract fades in 24 hours. We move the money, and he's left with air." The other chuckled. "He thinks he's the smartest man in the room. Let's see how smart he feels when the ink's gone and we're gone too." My heart stopped. I straightened up slowly, the ball still in my hand. My pulse was racing so fast I could hear it in my ears. They were planning to scam him, Mr. Colton. For a moment, I told myself to walk away. It wasn't my business. But I couldn't. He was cold, yes. Strict, yes. But he trusted those men, and if they were right, he'd lose everything. I waited until I heard the front door open, his car pulling up. I watched from the hallway as Mr. Colton walked in, briefcase in hand, his presence filling the space like thunder. He nodded to the butler, then headed straight toward his office. Ashley called out, "Welcome home, Brandon." He didn't answer. I saw the 2 partners stand when he entered the office. Their smiles were fake. Now that I knew, I could see it clearly. He sat down, opened a folder, and started talking numbers. My palms were sweating. Every instinct screamed to stay quiet, but something stronger pushed me forward. I took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Sir?" I said softly. He didn't even look up. "Sir, please, it's important." He turned his head sharply, his eyes locking on me like a warning. "Not now." But I didn't move. My voice came out trembling. "It can't wait." The room went silent. The 2 partners exchanged looks. Mr. Colton stood, walked to me, and gestured toward the hallway. "Out. Now." Once the door closed behind us, his tone exploded. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? You don't interrupt my meetings, ever." His voice was low but furious. "You're here to take care of my son, not my business." Tears stung my eyes, but I forced the words out. "I know, sir, but I overheard them, your partners. They said the contract you're about to sign is fake. The ink disappears after 24 hours. They plan to take the money and run." He stopped, completely. For a long second, I couldn't tell if he was about to fire me or believe me. His jaw tightened. His eyes, sharp, unreadable, studied me. "You heard that?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." He didn't say another word. He just turned, walked back into the office, and closed the door behind him. I stood there, heart pounding, hearing muffled voices inside. Then silence. A few minutes later, the men left. No smiles this time. No handshakes. Just tension in the air thick enough to touch. That night, I expected to lose my job, but a week passed after that day and no one mentioned what happened. Not Mr. Colton, not the staff, not even Ashley. The 2 partners never came back, and the air around the house felt different. Calmer, but heavier somehow. I tried to pretend nothing had changed, but I felt his presence more than ever. When Mr. Colton walked through the halls, everyone still moved out of his way, yet something in his eyes had shifted. Less anger, more thought. One morning, the butler stopped me at the door. "Mr. Colton would like to see you in his office." My heart nearly stopped. I walked down the same hallway where I'd overheard those men trying to calm my shaking hands. He was sitting behind his desk, as always, precise, controlled, unreadable. When I stepped inside, he didn't look up right away. Finally, he said, "You did the right thing." Then he slid an envelope across the desk. "Take this." I stared at it, unsure what to say. "Sir, He cut me off, his voice low but firm. "I'd have lost much more than this if you hadn't spoken." That was all. No further explanation, no warmth, no anger, just that one line. I took the envelope, thanked him quietly, and left. At home, I opened it, my hands still trembling. Inside was a stack of $100 bills, 5,000 in total. I'd never seen that much money in my life. For a moment, I just sat there in silence, staring at it. Not because of the amount, but because it came from him. Mr. Colton, the man who barely looked at anyone, had thanked me. After that day, he didn't suddenly become kind or talkative. He was still the same, strict, distant, powerful. But every now and then, I caught him looking at me differently. Once, when I was playing with little B, he stopped in the doorway and said, "Hard-working people are rare. I respect that." Then he walked away. It wasn't much, but from a man like him, it meant everything. And that was the moment I realized Brandon Colton had started to see me. Time passed quietly after that. Mr. Colton stayed the same, cold, polite, unreachable. But the house felt less hostile, and in the silence he left behind, something unexpected happened. Ashley and I grew close. It started with small things. She'd come to the nursery while I read to little B and linger a little longer each day. She'd ask about my parents, my cooking, the books I liked. We were from different worlds, her silk dresses against my thrift store jeans, yet somehow we understood each other. Two young women trying to stay gentle in a hard house. Ashley had no friends. No one ever came to visit her. The phone barely rang, and when it did, she spoke in short whispers and hung up fast. Most of her days were spent painting in a bright sunroom at the back of the mansion. Her paintings fascinated me. Soft colors, blurred faces, birds flying toward light. Beautiful, but lonely. Once, when she caught me looking, she smiled faintly and said, "I paint because it's the only thing here that doesn't judge me." That sentence stayed with me. Brandon was rarely home. Some weeks he was in New York, other times Dubai, London, or somewhere his assistant mentioned but no one remembered. When he left, the house softened. Ashley laughed more, little B sang to himself, even the staff spoke louder. But the moment he returned, silence fell again like a heavy curtain. I never saw affection between them. No hugs, no warmth, not even a gentle word. They lived together like business partners sharing a mansion. Sometimes, when Ashley thought no one was watching, she stood by the window in her studio, staring outside as if waiting for a life that would never come back. Once, little B asked her, "Mommy, when will Daddy play with us again?" She smiled through her sadness and whispered, "He's working, baby. Daddy always works." And she was right. He always did. He worked, he earned, he built. But somewhere along the way, he forgot how to love. And in that empty space he left behind, two strangers, a nanny and a lonely wife, started to find quiet friendship neither of us had expected. A full year had passed since I started working for the Coltons, and for the first time in my life, I felt something close to peace. I had a steady job, a good salary, and people who, in their own quiet way, treated me with respect. Little B had become like family to me, a bright, sweet boy with curious eyes and a laugh that made the big, cold house feel alive. Brandon Colton still scared me a little, but I understood him better now. His silence was his armor. And Ashley, she had become my friend. We couldn't have been more different, her in her silk dresses, me in my worn jeans, yet we somehow fit together. She would ask me about my family, and sometimes we'd sit on the patio with coffee after little B fell asleep. I'd talk about my parents back in Houston and how they were finally close to paying off their house. She'd smile softly and say she envied how simple my life sounded. I thought she meant it as a compliment. I didn't realize then how much she'd give to trade places with me. One warm afternoon, little B was taking his nap, and I was folding laundry in the guest room when Ashley appeared at the door. Her voice was trembling. "Rosalinda," she said quietly, "we need to talk." Something in her tone made me follow her without question. We went upstairs to her studio, the one with the half-finished paintings and the smell of oil and flowers. She locked the door behind us and leaned against it like she needed it to hold her up. Her hands were shaking. "You're the only person I can trust," she said. "Promise me you won't tell anyone what I'm about to say. Not Brandon, not the staff, no one." "I promise," I said, though my heart was already racing. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm pregnant." For a moment I just stared at her. She looked fragile, exhausted, but not like a woman who wanted congratulations. "That's good news, isn't it?" I asked carefully. She shook her head. "No, Rosalinda, it's not Brandon's." The words hit me like a slap. She sank into the chair near the window, her voice breaking. "We haven't been close for almost a year. You've been here, you know that. I didn't think it would happen, but it did." My eyes fell to her stomach. Under the loose linen blouse, there was the faintest curve, barely visible. If she hadn't said anything, I'd have never guessed. "Who's the father?" I asked softly. She was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "He left the day after I told him. I thought he'd help me. I thought he'd take me away from here. But he got scared." I didn't need her to say his name. I already knew. 2 months earlier, the gardener, a quiet man with kind eyes, had stopped showing up. No warning, no goodbye. Ashley used to bring him lemonade on hot days, laugh at his jokes. I thought she was just being friendly. Now I understood. My stomach turned. "Ashley." She looked up at me, desperate. "Brandon will kill me if he finds out. You don't know him like I do. He'll take little B from me, and I'll never see my son again. He'll ruin my name, my family, everything." She stood up, pacing, wiping her tears. "He's powerful. He has people everywhere. I can't leave. He'd find me. I can't stay. He'll find out. I have no one, Rosalinda. No one except you." I swallowed hard. "What do you want me to do?" Her voice steadied just a little. "Help me hide it." "Hide it?" "Yes, I have a plan." She took a deep breath and spoke fast, as if the words might fall apart if she didn't say them quickly. "Brandon's going to Dubai. He's building a new plant there, some big project. He'll be gone for 5 months, maybe longer. By the time he comes back, I'll have given birth." I felt dizzy. "Ashley, listen to me," she interrupted. "During those months, I'll say I've been feeling unwell. I'll avoid everyone, stay home, hide the pregnancy. When the baby comes, we'll tell him it's yours." My heart stopped. "Mine?" "Yes. You'll move into the house with the baby. We'll tell Brandon you had a child while he was away, that you had nowhere else to go, and I let you stay. He'll never question it. He doesn't notice what he doesn't want to see." I took a step back. "No, that's insane. I can't." "You can," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "It's the only way. I'll handle everything. The doctor, the papers, the story. After a year, when the baby's older, I'll convince Brandon to adopt her. I'll tell him you can't raise her alone, that it would be better for her to stay with us. Then I'll have both my children, and he'll never know." I felt like the ground was disappearing under me. "Ashley, this is wrong. You're asking me to lie about a life. I'm asking you to save mine," she whispered. She sank to her knees in front of me, grabbing my hands. "Please, Rosalinda, please. I'll give you money, $100,000, when it's over. You can help your parents, pay off their house. You deserve it. You've done so much for us." Her words echoed in my head. $100,000. I thought of my parents, my father's tired back, my mother's shaking hands, the constant talk about bills and mortgage payments. They still owed over $120,000 on the house. My salary helped, but not enough. Ashley kept talking, her voice breaking between sobs. You know what Brandon would do if he finds out. He'll take little B. He'll destroy me. I can't run. He'll find me. I can't live without my son. You're the only one who can help me. I pulled my hands away. I can't. It's wrong. It's a lie. Brandon trusted me. She looked up, her face wet and desperate. He doesn't trust anyone, Rosalinda, but you. You're good. You care. You're kind. Please don't let him take my child. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the ticking clock and her soft, shaky breathing. I felt something inside me breaking. Guilt, fear, pity, all tangled together. When I left the house that evening, the sunset looked unreal, too calm for the storm that had just begun. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. I tried to tell myself no. I repeated it over and over, no. But when I walked into my apartment and saw the stack of unpaid bills on the table, something in me shifted. $100,000. My parents' mortgage was $120,000. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ashley's tear-streaked face and my parents' tired smiles. The next morning, I went back to the mansion. She was waiting at the door, eyes swollen from crying, like she hadn't slept either. Did you think about it? She asked. I nodded slowly. My voice barely came out. Yes. And? I looked at her, at the woman who had everything yet was more trapped than anyone I'd ever known. I'll help you. She burst into tears and hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe. You're saving my life, she whispered. But as I stood there holding her trembling body, I knew it wasn't that simple. Because deep down, I wasn't saving a life. I was helping build a lie. And no matter how good my reasons were, I knew lies have a way of growing. Until one day, they bury the truth completely. When Brandon finally left for Dubai, the whole house seemed to exhale. It was as if a heavy curtain lifted, letting sunlight and laughter back inside. Even the staff walked lighter, as though fear itself had taken a flight with him. For the first few weeks, everything went according to plan. Ashley still looked slim. Her belly barely showed beneath loose sweaters and soft dresses. She smiled again, painted again, even sang to Little B in the evenings. For a moment, it felt like maybe this impossible secret could stay hidden forever. We both knew that illusion wouldn't last. By the 5th month, her movement slowed. She avoided tight clothes, layered scarves even in the heat, and learned how to turn her body slightly when someone walked by. Always sideways, she joked once, like I'm modeling for secrecy. But behind her, laughter was panic. By the 7th month, hiding became a full-time job. The cook and cleaner were too observant, the driver too curious, and gossip moved through the mansion faster than sound. One morning, the cleaner, Mrs. Ramos, a sweet woman with sharp eyes, stopped in the hallway and said, "Señora Colton, you're glowing more every day." Ashley smiled weakly and whispered to me later, "If she says that again, she'll be glowing from embarrassment." A week later, Mrs. Ramos nearly walked into her dressing room while Ashley was changing. I blocked the door just in time. "She's sleeping," I said quickly. Mrs. Ramos frowned. "Sleeping at 10 in the morning? Rich people are strange." We barely kept from laughing until the door shut. The kind of laughter that comes from fear, not humor. But laughter couldn't hide her growing stomach. By the start of the 8th month, even oversized clothes couldn't disguise the truth. The walls were closing in. One night, Ashley stood by the window, arms crossed over her belly, her voice trembling. "I can't risk it anymore. They all have to go." The next morning, she called the staff one by one. Calm, polite, perfectly composed, she said the same thing to each. "Thank you for your service. We're downsizing for a while." Within 24 hours, the mansion was empty. No cook, no cleaner, no driver, Just me, Ashley, and little B in a house big enough for 20 people. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes every sound louder. We cooked together, cleaned together, pretended this was normal. Ashley's hands shook when she cut vegetables. Mine did when I thought about what we were hiding. Sometimes we'd find little B drawing on the floor, his small voice breaking the silence. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming back?" Ashley would smile faintly. "Soon, sweetheart." Then she'd look at me when he wasn't watching, a look that said, "Please make him stop asking." By then, her belly was impossible to miss. I could see the outline even through the thickest cardigan. When she sat down, she held it instinctively, protectively. And yet somehow, we made it work. We turned the big kitchen into our own little world. I'd make coffee in the mornings, and she'd laugh when I burned the toast. Once, when she dropped a bowl and it shattered, she started crying, and then we both ended up laughing until our faces hurt. But under it all, fear pulsed like a second heartbeat. In the last weeks, even little B started to notice. One night, while hugging his mother goodnight, he pressed his cheek to her stomach and said, "It moved." Ashley froze. "You imagined it," she whispered, forcing a smile. Later, she told me, "He's too young. He won't remember." I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I knew. Children always remember the things adults try hardest to hide. And as I watched her sitting in that enormous empty house, one hand on her belly, the other holding a paintbrush that trembled, I realized something. We'd crossed a line we could never step back from. There was no one left to witness the truth. Only us, our fear, and a secret that was about to be born. By the 9th month, the house no longer felt like a home. It was quiet, hollow, every sound echoing through empty rooms. Only 3 of us remained, Ashley, little B, and me, trapped inside the secret we'd built. Ashley could barely move now. Her back ached, her hands shook, and her breath came in shallow waves. The mornings were the worst. She'd wake up exhausted before the day even began. Then, one afternoon, the email arrived. Brandon was coming home. He'd finished the Dubai project early and planned to stop in New York before returning to Houston. 3 days, Ashley whispered, reading the message out loud. "I have 3 days before everything collapses." Her voice cracked, and she pressed both hands against her belly as if she could keep time from moving forward. That night, she couldn't sit still. She paced from one room to another, muttering, "He can't see me like this. He can't." Little B followed her with his toy bear, confused and worried. "Mommy, are you sick?" She smiled weakly. "Just tired, sweetheart. Mommy's just tired." 2 days later, Brandon's assistant called again. His flight from New York was delayed. Ashley dropped to her knees and started to cry from relief. "It's a sign," she whispered. "I have to do it now." The next evening, her contractions began. There was no staff, no driver, no one to help, just me. I grabbed the keys, wrapped her in a blanket, and half carried her to the car while little B cried at the door. "It's okay, honey," I shouted over my shoulder. "Mommy will be home soon." We left him with a girl that agreed to keep silence for few $1000s. We drove through the dark streets to the small private clinic we'd arranged months earlier. It was nearly empty, the nurse expecting us. Ashley's grip was like iron as the pain took over. Hours later, the baby's first cry filled the room. Soft, fragile, perfect. A girl. Ashley named her Greta through tears. "My little secret," she whispered. There was no time to rest. Brandon could arrive any moment. 2 days later, Ashley brought Greta to my small apartment. She kissed the baby's forehead, whispered something only a mother could say, and handed her to me. "I have to go home," she said, her voice steady again. "He can't know." Then she left, calm, composed, ready to welcome her husband home like nothing had ever happened. That night, I sat alone with Greta in my arms, listening to her tiny breaths and realizing that the lie wasn't a plan anymore. It was our life now. 3 days after Ashley left my apartment, I stood in front of the Colton mansion again, the place that had once felt like work, then danger, and now, a stage for the biggest lie of my life. Greta was asleep in my arms, wrapped in the soft white blanket Ashley had brought. She was tiny and warm, her fingers curled around mine as if she trusted me completely. That trust broke my heart. The house looked different now, emptier, colder, too quiet without the staff. The echo of my footsteps followed me down the marble hallway until I saw him. Brandon. He stood near the grand staircase, just as I remembered. Tall, straight, impossible to read. His eyes moved from me to the baby and back again. "No one told me you were pregnant," he said flatly. I felt my throat close. "Sir, I didn't think it was really important. I did my job as well as before and—" He interrupted. "What's her name?" "Greta," I said quietly. He raised an eyebrow. "Unusual name for Mexican people." I forced a small, nervous smile. "Her father is American." His eyes narrowed, the silence stretching between us. "And where is he?" I looked down, pretending to adjust Greta's blanket. My silence said everything. Brandon exhaled slowly, like a man deciding something in his mind. "Do you need maternity leave?" "No, sir," I said quickly. "I'd like to keep working, if you allow me to bring her. She sleeps most of the time. I promise she won't be in the way." He opened his mouth to respond, but another voice appeared behind him. Ashley. She descended the stairs gracefully, her dress light and flowing, her smile perfectly practiced. No one would ever guess she'd given birth less than a week ago. "I think Rosalinda should stay with us," she said sweetly. "She's been loyal to our family, and she needs support now. It's the least we can do." Brandon turned his head toward her, frowning. "Live here? With a baby?" Ashley kept her tone calm. "She'll stay in the East Wing. You know how much little B adores her. Having her here will make things easier for everyone." I stood perfectly still, afraid to breathe. Brandon's eyes returned to me, cold, assessing. "You really think you can work the same way with a newborn?" "Yes, sir," I said. "Greta's a calm baby. She sleeps through the night. It won't interfere with my duties. Everything will be exactly as before." He said nothing for a long moment. Then finally, "I'll think about it." Ashley smiled softly. "That's all we ask." He walked away without another word, disappearing down the hall, his footsteps echoing until the silence returned. Ashley turned to me then, her composure slipping for just a second. Her eyes glistened, part relief, part fear. She reached out and brushed Greta's tiny hand. "You did perfectly," she whispered. "Thank you." Little B appeared from the living room, clutching his bear. His eyes widened when he saw the baby. "Rosie, you have a baby?" "Yes, sweetheart," I said softly. "Her name's Greta." He giggled, peeking into the blanket. "She's so small." Ashley knelt beside him, smiling. "You'll be gentle with her, right, honey?" He nodded seriously. "I'll be careful." As they looked down at the baby, I felt my chest tighten. On the surface, everything looked calm, a happy family moment. But I could already feel the weight of the truth pressing on all of us, because I wasn't just holding a baby. I was holding the secret that could destroy everything. And standing there, under the perfect glow of that perfect house, I knew the lie had finally begun. A few days later, I packed my things and moved into the Colton mansion. Again. But this time, it felt different. Last time, I came as a nanny. Now, I was returning as a mother. Greta and I were given the small room at the end of the East Wing, the one that used to belong to the housekeeper before Ashley dismissed the staff. It had soft cream walls and a large window overlooking the garden. Ashley filled it with flowers and toys, smiling as if she were setting up a nursery for someone else's baby, which, technically, she was. For the first few days, everything felt strangely peaceful. Ashley spent hours in my room, sitting beside Greta's crib, humming lullabies in a soft, trembling voice. She'd lift Greta carefully, study her tiny face, and whisper, "You're safe now. "Mommy's here." Little B loved the baby immediately. He'd tiptoe into the room every morning to peek at her, whispering, "She's still sleeping," as if he were protecting her dream. Watching him and Greta together made my chest ache in the best and worst way. Brandon barely looked at us. He left early, came home late, buried in work. He seemed content to ignore the new reality in his house. One more person he didn't have to care about. That distance made it easier for our lie to survive. At night, though, when the house grew quiet and the world felt honest again, I felt the guilt creeping in. I'd rock Greta to sleep in my arms, watching her tiny chest rise and fall and think, she deserves better than a lie. Then I'd remind myself why I was doing this. It wasn't just for Ashley. It was for my parents. They still owed $120,000 on their mortgage. Every month I sent what I could, but it wasn't enough. This year of pretending, would change everything. $100,000, enough to free them, to finally let them rest. And beyond the money, there was something else. Safety. If I didn't help Ashley, she might lose everything. Brandon might take little B. She might run and get caught. And what would happen to Greta then? To that innocent child who never asked to be part of a secret. So I convinced myself I was doing the right thing. For her, for them, for everyone. The days blurred together. Mornings with little B, afternoons cleaning, evenings pretending to read bedtime stories while my mind raced with worry. And nights were the hardest. Greta didn't sleep much. She'd cry and fuss, her little lungs filling the room with soft heartbreak. I'd walk with her for hours, whispering lullabies until my legs went numb. Ashley often came by to watch us, sometimes holding Greta for a while before leaving again. She never stayed the night. That was my role. One night, around 3 a.m, Greta wouldn't stop crying. I sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted, tears burning behind my eyes. "Please, baby," I whispered. "Please sleep." When she finally did, I looked out the window at the dark garden and thought, "You're doing this for good. It's all for good." I lived rent-free now. No grocery bills, no commute. I could save almost everything. In 1 year, the mortgage would be gone, and my parents could finally stop worrying about money. Just 1 year. 1 year of sleepless nights, quiet guilt, and pretending that this perfect, fragile little girl was mine. Sometimes, when Brandon passed by me in the hallway and nodded politely, I felt a stab of shame. He had been cold but fair to me, even kind once, and now I was lying straight to his face every single day. Still, every time Greta smiled in her sleep, the guilt softened for a moment. Because in my heart, she was mine. And even though the lie had started as a promise, it was slowly turning into love. For a while, it felt like everything had finally fallen into place. Days turned into months, and the lie started to feel like truth. Ashley was calmer now, painting again, smiling more often. Brandon was distant as always, but peaceful. Little B adored Greta, and the house, for the first time in years, felt almost happy. I told myself the hardest part was over, but lies don't rest. They wait, quietly, patiently, for the moment they can be heard. It happened one sunny afternoon. Brandon had come home earlier than usual. I was in the living room with little B, building a tower from wooden blocks, while Ashley painted quietly in the corner. Greta was asleep in her crib beside me, the soft sound of her breathing filling the room. Brandon entered without warning, setting down his briefcase. "How's everyone doing?" he asked, his tone neutral but unusually gentle. Little B jumped up, running toward him. "Daddy, look at Greta," he said proudly. "Remember when Mommy had her in her tummy?" The world froze. Ashley's brush slipped from her fingers, landing on the floor with a small clatter. My heart stopped. Brandon's expression didn't change at first. Just a small blink, his eyes moving from his son to Ashley. "It wasn't Mommy," he said evenly. "It was Rosalinda." The silence that followed was unbearable. Ashley's face went pale. My hands shook. though I tried to smile like it was nothing. Brandon didn't shout. He didn't even raise his voice. He just looked at Ashley with that sharp, cold gaze that could slice through steel. "You spend so little time with your son," he said slowly, "that he already calls the nanny his mother." Then he picked up his briefcase and walked out of the room. The door closed softly, the sound somehow worse than if he had slammed it. Ashley stood frozen, her face drained of color. I didn't know what to say. We both knew that one wrong word, one wrong expression, could unravel everything. That night, neither of us slept. Greta cried, and I rocked her for hours, whispering, "Shh, it's okay, little one." But my own hands were trembling. I realized how fragile everything was, how easily a child's innocent words could destroy 2 lives. After that day, Ashley became quieter. She watched her every step, her every sentence, and I became more cautious too, always making sure little B didn't say too much. But children talk. They notice things we wish they didn't. Greta was growing fast. At 7 months, she had soft white blonde hair and the clearest blue eyes I'd ever seen. She didn't look like me, not even a little. One afternoon, Brandon stopped by while I was feeding her in the garden. He leaned against the doorframe, watching for a moment before speaking. "White hair, blue eyes," he said, his voice low and thoughtful. "Looks like the American genes won. Happens rare." I froze. My hands tightened on the bottle. He wasn't asking, he was observing, but the way he said it made my stomach twist. I forced a polite smile and didn't answer. Silence was safer than words. He nodded once and walked away. After he left, I looked down at Greta, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, her bright eyes searching my face. My heart ached. She was growing, changing, becoming more real to me every day. She'd started saying sounds, reaching out to me, laughing when I entered the room. And one night, as I was rocking her to sleep, she looked straight at me and said it, soft, unsure, but clear. "Mama." The word cut through me like light and pain at once. I cried quietly, holding her close, because even though I loved her like my own, maybe more than my own, I knew one day I'd have to give her back. And I didn't know how I would survive that day. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. The day had started peacefully. Sunshine, laughter, and the quiet comfort of routine. I was in the garden with little B, helping him build a small tower of wooden blocks, while Ashley was upstairs, rocking Greta to sleep. For a brief moment, I believed everything might last. Then, the sound of a door opening shattered that illusion. Brandon had come home early. His footsteps were heavy, echoing through the hallway. Little B looked up and smiled. "Daddy?" he called, but Brandon didn't respond. He walked past us, heading upstairs toward Ashley's room. Something inside me twisted. I didn't know why, but my instincts screamed to follow. When I reached the door, it was slightly open. I saw Ashley inside, holding Greta close to her chest, her voice low and trembling. "My sweet angel," she whispered. "My beautiful girl. Mommy loves you so much." Those words hung in the air like thunder. Brandon stood in the doorway, silent. His face was stone. "I guessed it," he said finally, his tone calm. Too calm. "Now you've confirmed it." Ashley froze. "Brandon, no, you misunderstood. Did I?" His eyes shifted to Greta. "She has your eyes." Ashley's lips parted, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, I didn't mean." The sound of his hand striking her face broke through the silence. It wasn't loud, but it was final. Greta began to cry. I rushed forward instinctively, but Brandon's glare stopped me cold. "I already took custody of little B," he said evenly. "The papers were signed this morning. Your accounts are frozen. I just received the confirmation call before walking in here." Ashley's knees buckled. No, you can't." He didn't raise his voice. "You can be free now." There was no anger in his tone, only disappointment, which somehow felt worse. Ashley staggered toward the door, clutching Greta. "Little B," she cried. Where's my son? I'm taking him and leaving. Brandon turned away from her. No, he's staying here. Brandon, please, she begged. He's my child. He looked at her, his expression colder than I'd ever seen. You're not his mother anymore, he said softly. You have another child now. Little B appeared at the end of the hallway, holding his toy bear, his small face confused and wet with tears. Mommy? He whimpered. Ashley reached for him, but Brandon moved faster. He picked up his son, holding him firmly. Go to your room, he said quietly. Now. The boy clung to him, sobbing. Mommy, please. I couldn't breathe. The scene felt like something out of a nightmare, a family tearing apart right in front of me. Ashley tried to move forward, but Brandon pressed the intercom button by the wall. Security. Within minutes, 2 men appeared, tall, expressionless, dressed in black. Take them out, Brandon said calmly. Brandon, please, Ashley screamed. You can't do this. One of the guards stepped toward me. You too, ma'am. Wait, I said quickly, clutching Greta tighter. Please, she's just a baby. He didn't respond. He grabbed my arm firmly, but not roughly, guiding me toward the door. Another guard took Ashley by the shoulders as she screamed and kicked, begging to see her son. They didn't listen. Within minutes, everything I owned, my bags, Greta's small blankets, her bottle, was handed to me in a box. They didn't even let us step back inside. When Ashley demanded her things, the guard said flatly, It's the boss's will. Ashley screamed until her voice broke, trying to push past them. Brandon, please let me see him. But the front door slammed shut, and she collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Greta cried in my arms, startled by the chaos, her tiny hands clutching my blouse. I stood there in the driveway, frozen, too shocked to speak, too scared to move. The gates closed behind us, the sound echoing like an ending. I looked at Ashley, her makeup smeared, her dress torn, her body shaking. And in that moment, it hit me. The lie we built to save her had destroyed everything instead. We had traded the truth for survival. And in the end, we lost both. It's been over a year since the day we were pushed out of the Colton mansion, a year since everything fell apart. Now we live in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of Houston. The walls are thin, the floor creaks, and the view is just a parking lot. But it's ours. I pay most of the bills. Ashley had never worked before. She's trying now. Small things, remote work, anything that can help. But mostly, she spends her days filling out papers, calling lawyers, trying to find a way to see her son again. She hasn't seen little B in 5 months. Every time she says his name, her voice breaks just a little. Sometimes I catch her sitting by the window at night, staring at nothing, whispering, "He's growing up without me." Greta is over a year old now, walking, babbling, laughing. She fills the apartment with light and noise, the kind that keeps us alive. She calls Ashley Mommy, and she calls me Mama. Every time she does, my heart splits in two. I know Ashley is her real mother. I remind myself every day. But Greta doesn't understand what truth means yet. She only knows who fed her, held her, sang to her when she cried. She knows both of us as mothers. I try to hide how much it hurts. I smile. I let Ashley take her into her arms. I tell myself this is how it's supposed to be. But at night, when Greta falls asleep against my shoulder, I feel that familiar ache, the same one I felt when I realized the lie had turned into love. I found a new job. It's good, stable, honest work. My employers are kind. But I keep my distance now. I come, I work, I leave. I learned my lesson. I'll never be that close again, not to anyone's family. Because no matter how much time passes, I still carry the weight of that year. The house, the lie, the baby who wasn't mine, but somehow still feels like she is. And as I watch Greta sleep between us, 2 mothers who lost everything except her, I realize some secrets don't end when they're exposed. They just change shape and keep living in the spaces between love and truth.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more love, Betrayal and Redemption Tales.